it's Elizabeth Houston from Elpis Astrology at elpisastrology.com. Thanks for joining me today. So today I am going to give my take on the astrological forecast for November 2021. So this is the start of the eclipse season, right? So this month we have a full moon eclipse happening in Taurus at 27 degrees on the 17th of November. I'll go into those details in a minute. So we've got Taurus featured this month in November, but we also have Scorpio, which is the opposite sign. So both those signs are going to be featured this month with both the new moon and the full moon. And just to let you know, I do have a whole video that I did where I included sun signs and ascendants for the north nodes going into Taurus. And I'll give that link below should you want to look at it. So on the 4th of November, we have our new moon, which is in Scorpio. It's at 12 degrees Scorpio, 40 minutes at 2:14 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. So at this new moon, we have the sun and the moon together. That's what a new moon is, but it's opposite Uranus, which is also at 12 degrees of Taurus. So this sets up a dynamic of unexpected things, surprises. At its highest level, of course, Uranus wants to give us enlightenment. But a lot of times what it does, it comes as a shock or surprise, or something very unexpected comes our way. But what's great about this is that the unexpected thing may help set us on a new path, right? Because this is a new moon. We have Mercury that is in Libra, and Mars in Scorpio. Because they're so close together in terms of degrees and orb, they are actually conjunct at this time too. So that lends itself to a really nice action with regards to communicating. So Mercury's communication and Mars, of course, is energy. So this is communication with regards to diplomacy, acting with grace or with some charm. And then we go on to Venus, which is at 29 degrees of Sagittarius. And as you may remember from my previous videos, 29 degrees represents a critical degree, and it's the culmination of that particular sign. So there's 30 degrees in every sign. Once we get to 29, we know there's going to be some kind of finality to this. So with it being Venus, I would say that this is where we're going to have some kind of intense type thing happen around our vision for the future with regards to three different things. Probably our money, but our value system as well. And of course, love. But at its root, Venus does represent the feminine. And when we look at it from a day-to-day standpoint, it's the female. So I see this as some kind of culmination with regards to females or the other areas that I've just described to you individually. I would say that this could also bring some critical or culminating point for females. But you know, with it being in Sagittarius, Sagittarius really likes to be optimistic, but future-oriented, much like Uranus, and forward-thinking. It also likes to take risks. So I guess it could be, because it's at 29 degrees, it could be a female takes some kind of risk with regards to the future, maybe the future of all females. We'll have to see. So that's the new moon in Scorpio. If you've got anything at 12 degrees, say your ascendant or your sun or your moon in some regards, this will be an important new moon for you, and it can set up a period of 6 months influence. Now, we should remember that Venus will enter the shadow period from about the 17th of November, preparing for a Venus retrograde in Capricorn in December. So I'll cover that in December, but it'll be conjuncting Pluto. So this will be a major transformational event around all things Venus. I did do a video on this as well, and I covered all of the sun signs and ascendants. I'll put that link below, but you might want to look at it now to get an idea of the area of your life where this Venus retrograde may be affecting you. Now, for anything like this to really affect you dramatically, it really would have to hit your sun, your moon, your ascendant, or maybe your midheaven to have a really serious effect. Otherwise, sometimes this can pass by with no real effect. Classically, we talk about a Venus retrograde, which happens every few years, as a love from your past coming into your life again. What you do with it, of course, is up to you. We have a really nice aspect on the 13th of November, and that is the Sun trining Neptune. So those born around the 13th of November, and I would take an orb of either side of that, so the 12th to the 14th of November, with 13th of November being particularly important. This is going to be like an extra inspirational, maybe extra lucky time for those that have an ascendant or their sun around 20 degrees of Scorpio. Yeah. Now it'll also influence Pisces too, because of course we have Neptune in Pisces as well at 20 degrees. So if you've got your sun at 20 degrees of Pisces, this could also be just an absolutely lovely day where you feel inspired. Maybe even for those that have some really important degree points here, this could be like a dream coming true for you. Yeah. I mean, the sun will be in Scorpio, so this will be something that may affect you really psychologically. And I would say this is going to brighten up your day and inspire you to move forward for those that are affected directly by this 20 degrees of Scorpio transit. Okay, so on the 17th of November, this is when we have that full moon eclipse. And it's at 27 degrees Taurus, 14 minutes at 12:56 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time. Now, just prior to the moon forming this eclipse, it will conjunct Uranus. So this is important, again, at a moon in November, that we're going to get some shake up or wake up. Now, because this is eclipse, the effects are going to be more dramatic. So I would expect that because we've got Taurus involved as the moon, and that's where Uranus is, I would say that this could, from a mundane standpoint, probably bring in something like earthquakes, volcanoes. It can bring in other things too, like high winds. Taurus is all about the earth, so it's anything related to the earth, and then the Taurus part of it with the Uranus is shaking, right? Shaking and waking. So that kind of says to me this may be earthquake time as well. But certainly individually, this could be a time when we wake up, right? Now, this full moon eclipse really kind of marks the start of the north nodes going into Taurus. Now, officially, that's not going to happen until mid-January 2022, but this is kind of a preview of what's going to happen once those north nodes do go into Taurus for a year and a half, starting mid-January 2022. So I would pay attention to this, especially if you've got anything, say, around that 27 degree mark of Taurus, or the opposite sign, 27 degrees of Scorpio. And I did cover this eclipse as well in a special video, so please go and look at it if you want to see what areas of your life, because I covered the sun as well as the ascendant signs. So this tells us that we have the sun obviously in Scorpio, but we also have Mercury there too. So Mercury will be conjunct this sun, opposite the actual full moon. So I would say that there's probably going to be some important message delivered. And what is that message going to be about? Well, we look to the ruler of this full moon, and the ruler, of course, of Taurus is Venus. So we've got Venus featured here again. Now, I think that this whole north nodes going into Taurus, with Scorpio being opposite, this is a money axis. So I would say that at this full moon eclipse, we're probably going to have some very clear indication that the markets, the money markets, are going to start changing. And for us individually, of course, it'll be our own money. Now, in particular, we're looking at real estate. We're looking at any kind of investments around that, but we're also looking at the stock market, your 401ks, any shared resources that you have as well. Because this is an axis, we've got both Scorpio and Taurus that are activated here. We're going to have a whole year and a half where this whole axis is going to be activated, right, starting in January 2022. So again, I would pay attention to see what happens here in your life. Now, this could be something as simple of us individually having our value system shaken up, where we realize that we're not valuing ourselves enough. Maybe in your job, you need to ask for a raise. Maybe you need to change your job. All depends where this falls in your chart. And of course, I would be happy to look at your chart. You can contact me below in the text box. I leave all my contact information. Send me an email and we can set something up. We do have a nice Saturn sextile in Chiron. So this sets up, sextiles are always about opportunities. So we can take them or we can leave them. Saturn is about setting up structures, and with Chiron, it's about wounding. It can also be to do with health as well. So I see this as some opportunities here to set up some structures, either individually or collectively, around our health and around us healing. So I think that's a very nice aspect to have in conjunction with this full moon eclipse. Now on November 20th, we're going to have an exact opposition of Mars to Uranus. So it's like we've got the Uranus being featured to begin with just before the eclipse by the moon, goes on to have the eclipse. A couple days later, we then have Mars, planet of action and forward moving things, opposite Uranus. So this is the trigger. So the actual trigger may not happen on the eclipse. It may happen around the 20th of November, where energy is put into this change. And that's what I see happening. Change around our values, around potentially loves in our life, but I think it's really going to be our money. All right, we talked about that. Now we're going to move on to Venus in Capricorn is going to be trining Uranus. So that's just after this whole Mars opposition. Now the opposition can be a little more difficult to deal with, so it's like warring factions. But the Venus part of it as a trine is always a favorable energy. So to me, this is like an incorporating. So we're going to have to incorporate something from the Venus standpoint that was a result of this eclipse and a result of the Mars opposing Uranus. So some kind of shakeup is going to have to be absorbed, I think, by the money markets. And there's going to be some kind of, I think this Venus is going to try to be nice, too nice. And it's also going to be kind of glossing over what's really happening. So watch out for things like that, where people are just saying things like, well, don't worry about it, everything's going to be okay. I'm not so sure that that's going to be the case. I would certainly be paying attention to whatever monies I have and checking all my investments to see if they are truly in the right places right now. Now, Venus will be at its direct motion degree for that Venus retrograde at that point, right? So it's going to go, this Venus retrograde that I talked about earlier will actually be at 11-12 degrees the last week of January 2022. So last week of January 2022, we're also going to get some kind of indication of the Venus retrograde, as well as some tie-in with this whole Venus trining Uranus. Now at that time, Uranus will be direct. So it seems to me that there's some kind of covert stuff going on here, sort of in the November time, that will then become clearer once we get past the Venus retrograde itself when it goes direct motion. Towards the end of January 2022. On the 23rd of November, we have a Venus sextiling Mars, but it also does it a second time on the 29th of November. And I think this just sets up some nice opportunities to, one, invest our money appropriately. So if I were looking at investing my money, I guess, or changing up my money, I'd probably do it around the 23rd of November time period up to the 29th of November, where you've just got these great opportunities. And I mean, Venus can represent an actual investor. And then of course the Mars part of it is the action towards it. So I looked at this Venus sextiling Mars as an investment period, but it can also represent opportunities to have relationships. You know, Venus and Mars are the celestial lovers. So that could be something that happens to us individually between the 23rd and 29th of November. On the 25th of November, we have the Sun ingressing into Sagittarius. And then just after that, on the 25th of November, we're going to have Mercury also going into Sagittarius. So this is setting up some very optimistic, forward-looking, future-oriented types of thinking. But both are conjunct the outgoing south nodes of the moon, which are still in Gemini in November. But because they're at the tail end, which actually means they're really at the beginning, because the nodes always go backwards, we know that there's an actual conjunction here of the Sun, Mercury, and the south nodes. So the south nodes really are points where we're really supposed to be letting go of things. So I would say that this is a great opportunity for us to look to the future and decide for a final time, before the north nodes go into Taurus, decide as a final time, what do I really need to let go of that I've not let go of, that's stopping me from moving forward into this bright future that I have. So that's all towards the end of November, that type of activity you can participate in individually. So when we look at the sky, we have Mercury is going to reach its highest point in the morning sky. So for those that get up early, get out there and take a look at it around dawn. We have the moon, which will be very close to Venus on the 13th of November. That's also going to be in the morning sky. And then we have, still in the night sky, joining both Jupiter and Saturn, we have Mars. And you should be able to see all three of these planets very clearly. When we look at December, we have the final eclipse of the year, and this is going to be a total eclipse. It is going to be a new moon in Sagittarius, and I'm going to reference my link again. I did a whole video I did the video on all the Sagittarius eclipses, including this final one, this total one. So I'll give you a reference for that in the text box below. But this is going to occur on the 4th of December. And then not far after that, we're going to have the Venus retrograde start on the 19th of December. And then we have the final Saturn-Uranus square on Christmas Eve. But I'll talk about all the details of that and how it affects you next month in my December 2021 video. I have done my year ahead of 2022, and I'll give you that in the text box as well for those that haven't had a chance to look at it. What I'm going to do as my long video next is I've decided to look at the total eclipse, the first total eclipse that we're going to have occur in the new placement of the north nodes and the south nodes for 2022. And it's going to be in Scorpio. So we'll have a total, and that's where the south nodes are going to be. So I'm going to be focusing on that in my next long video, and I'll cover all the ascendants as well as the sun sign. As always, I'm sending everybody lots of love. Please take care of yourself. November is going to be an interesting month where I think you're going to have to be doing some thinking about your values, value of yourself, your money, and of course your love life. Take care, everyone, and we'll talk to you soon.